Hi everyone, I'm back after this really fun and entertaining World Cup. I had a great time watching it, even as a busy college student, and today I'll be reacting to my summer predictions. Alright, let's go. Group A, Netherlands. First one right, I got them to top the group. They did just that, they looked really solid in the group stage and deservedly beat the USA, and they lost to Argentina by the finest of margins. They looked done and dusted after Messi's penalty, but Wout Weghorst fought back and they were really unlucky to lose on penalties. Many people were unhappy with the refereeing in this game, so on a good day, they could have easily gone further. Technically, their manager is still undefeated as the game with Argentina was officially a draw. I hope they win a World Cup someday. They're easily the best country to never win one. Senegal, another one right. They didn't reach the quarterfinals as I said they would, but they did really well considering the circumstances. Their star Sadio Mane got injured just before the World Cup, and just like Denmark losing Eriksen in the last Euros, Senegal regrouped and won both their games against Qatar and Ecuador. They got dominated by England in the last 16, but qualifying for knockouts is a big achievement and they can only build on this in the future. Ecuador, they finished third in the group exactly as I predicted, but they should have done better considering the circumstances. Enner Valencia did his part against Qatar and even the Netherlands, but they really should have taken advantage of Mane's injury, especially after getting the draw against the Netherlands, which Senegal didn't do. All he needed was the draw against Senegal to move on. Both teams fought really hard, but ultimately Senegal got that winner through Koulibaly. They still got a win in this World Cup and they can qualify for the next one though. Qatar. They were never expected to do much, but they still let me down. They were the host nation after all. And this tournament was great for Asian teams. Japan, South Korea, Australia, they all impressed. Saudi Arabia got a famous win, Iran won too. Qatar is the only Asian nation to not even get a point. Host nations usually get a boost, even underdogs. South Africa beat a France team in crisis in 2010. Russia reached the quarterfinals in 2018. This team can do better, especially given they won the Asian Cup in 2019, beating Japan, South Korea, and Saudi Arabia on the way. They've been training for this moment for years, but their inexperience on the biggest of stages cost them, as well as the controversy surrounding this cup as a whole. Alright, so I got Group A perfect from top to bottom, but it can only get worse from here. Group B, England. Fair play to England for shaking off their pre-cup form. They looked awful in the Nations League, and some people were picking them to get grouped. But France also sucked, and they reached the World Cup final, so I guess you can say, don't judge big teams off the Nations League. I believed in them though, picked them to finish second, but they finished top. With the players they have, topping the group is the minimum expectation, and they did just that. Over the summer, England went 5 whole games without scoring from open play, but here, the goals just came so naturally. 6 against Iran, 3 against Wales, 3 against Senegal. America is just their bogey team. What did I say against England though? They'll go out on penalties in the quarterfinals. And indeed, they lost to France in the quarterfinals because of penalties. England just have this trend of beating the teams they should beat, but then being cursed on penalties against top teams. Imagine having to take a penalty against your Spurs teammate, Hugo Lloris, to decide who goes home. He knows exactly where you kick in training, and it just psychs you out. With everything on the line, Harry Kane sent his second penalty to the moon, and I just feel this pain. Like I did for our own player, Christian Cueva, when he missed against Denmark in 2018 in the exact same way. Sometimes the pressure is just too much. I want them to win something though. They are elite. Even Harry Maguire turns into a beast for the Three Lions. Ballers like Saka, Foden, and Jude Bellingham just give England hope to go again in 2024 and 2026 unless penalties continue to haunt them. USA. Going into the tournament, the USA, Iran, and Wales were seen at an extremely similar level talent-wise and team-wise. It's tough to call, but I picked the US to get out, and they did, so congrats to them. I have no idea why I said they would top the group, especially when England is better, but hey, I got the draw right. England just won't beat their 13 colonies in the near future. Christian Pulisic had a great World Cup, getting the goal against Iran and the assist against Wales, both super important for our chances, as well as an assist against the Netherlands to potentially get us back into the game. After the US looked lost in some September friendlies, many were saying that the US would finish bottom of the group, but I said in my original video that the US turns up in tournaments, and they certainly did. Ultimately, they made some rookie mistakes in defending against the Netherlands, but I always saw the round of 16 as a positive goal for the USA, and they reached it, so this gives me hope for quarterfinals in 2026. Iran. They'll be remembered most for getting smashed by England in their first game, especially after some fans were hyping up Carlos Queiroz' pragmatic setup that would be hard to break down and guide Iran out of the group. Iran could have given up just then and there, but they didn't, and I admire that. They contained Wales throughout their second game, and once Wayne Hennessy got that red card, they got 2 late goals to climb to second in the group. They were still in it. Against the USA, all they needed was to hold on for a draw, just like Ecuador against Senegal, but the US got their goal, and they got knocked out. Fair play, this group was really close, and they almost bounced back from that first game. Wales. Going into the tournament, Wales had as much of a chance as going through as Iran or the USA, but they flopped so hard. Aside from scoring that penalty against the USA, which was still Wales' first World Cup goal in 64 years, Gareth Bale was invisible. They were the only team to not score against Iran and lost the game in the end. One lowly point is the letdown after waiting for so long to qualify, but all these "we've waited so long" teams struggle. It's a common theme. Group C, I'll talk about Argentina at the end of the video. Poland. Poland looked really poor at the last two tournaments, World Cup 2018 and Euro 2020. And it suggested to me that the strategy of Lewandowski and vibes would not be enough for Poland to get out of the group. But instead, Wojciech Szczesny turned into a god this tournament, saving 2 penalties. And without him and Lewandowski, who got his first World Cup goals, they would not get out of the group. Man made 9 saves against Argentina, including Messi's penalty, and Poland advanced through goal difference. It was so important. It's kind of funny that I said what had happened in the World Cup final happened against Poland instead. Messi missed a penalty, and Alexis McAllister scored the winner. Just not the World Cup winner, though. They got schooled by France in the next round, but job done. I said they won't go through, and they did. Mexico. They have looked very stagnant under Tata Martino. They are just not good at scoring goals. It doesn't help that Raul Jimenez got a head injury against Arsenal 2 years ago, and it turned him into a shadow of himself, just like Eden Hazard. I said over the summer that Mexico would struggle to score, but they would still grind something out and get them through, and get knocked out in the round of 16. Streets will never forget World Cup Ochoa in 2014 and 2018. And in 2022, Ochoa still had his god moment, saving Lewandowski's penalty in the first game, but he hasn't done much after that. It seems like Lewandowski cast a spell where his penalty miss would transfer Ochoa's powers to Szczesny's, and when Messi missed a penalty against Szczesny, he passed Szczesny's powers onto Emi Martinez. In all seriousness though, Mexico lacked that spark and didn't deserve to go through. They did score 2 against Saudi Arabia and were desperately chasing that third goal that would get them through, but instead they conceded. Time for a new generation to come. Saudi Arabia. Despite finishing bottom of the group, they were massive. I knew there was going to be a huge upset in the first round of the group stage. I said it was going to be Australia beating France out of nowhere, only to lose their next 2 games. Instead, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina out of nowhere, only to lose their next 2 games. Do I get points for picking an Asian team to upset a World Cup finalist? Argentina got so many disallowed goals in this game, and Saudi Arabia got 2 chances all game and took them well. If you repeat this match 10 times, Saudi Arabia is not winning again, but they won in real life, and that's what football is all about. They finished bottom, but these players will have something special to tell their kids. Good stuff. Group D, Denmark. Oh my god, this has to be the worst prediction in the whole video. I picked them to reach the semi-final too, and they finished bottom of the group with no wins. This is a huge disappointment from Denmark, and I don't think anyone in the world saw it coming. I mean, even though Denmark is in the traditional powerhouse, round of 16 is minimum for this talented side. They beat France in the Nations League home and away. They topped their qualifying group, keeping 8 clean sheets in a row, and they reached the Euro semi-finals without their star Christian Eriksen. So it only made sense that adding Eriksen to this team would get them to new heights. But instead, they struggled and didn't win a single game. It's time to regroup, figure out what went wrong, and go again in Euro 2024. France, they have the most elite squad depth, man. They really went to the World Cup without Benzema, and Nkunku, Kimpembe, Pogba, and Kanté through injuries, and they still reached the final. Can any other team succeed this much without the current Ballon d'Or winner in the squad? Obviously, this squad playing at full capacity has to top any World Cup group. The only reason I said second is that I thought they would not do their best due to the World Cup curse. Over the summer, some people said France would get grouped due to the curse, but I just knew it wouldn't happen this time. They started the curse 20 years ago, so they would break it. Probably top the group as well. But then, the predictions video would be boring if I just picked all the best teams to finish first, you know? Anyway, I said they would go out in the round of 16. Instead, they reached the final. But I got one thing right. They would get knocked out to Argentina. Mark my words though, Mbappe is shattering every World Cup record. Tunisia, well, they're the one team I got right in this group. Draw against Denmark, lose to Australia, but beat France. We always talk about how France's B team and Brazil's B team are better than most national teams, just looking at the names. But it seems like they're not what they seem to be because they lost to Tunisia and Cameroon respectively. Well, on one hand, they already qualified and they're probably just trying to avoid injuries. But on the other hand, I have to give Tunisia all credit for getting the win over the World Cup finalists. Once the Saudis beat Argentina, they knew that anything was possible. Australia. Yeah, I don't think anyone picked Australia to get out of the group. They were scraping through the last rounds of Asian qualifiers, and both Peru and Australia looked poor in their playoff game. Only reason they got through was their backup goalkeeper doing dances, and once they reached the World Cup, I said they would get a shock win but then finish bottom. Well, even though they looked exposed after losing 4-1 to France, they held firm and they kept back-to-back clean sheets as they beat Tunisia and Denmark to move on. and even against Argentina, they were one Martinez save away from taking the game to extra time. This team was not expected to do anything at all. The guy who scored against Tunisia, Michel Duque, plays in the Japanese 2nd Division. On paper, they're nothing compared to the 2006 Australian team with prime Tim Cahill. Hats off to Australia, at least I can say we got knocked out to a round of 16 level team. Group E, Germany. Oh man, just like Denmark, another huge letdown. Honestly, there were quite a few people who said Germany would go out in the group again, and they were right. But I thought it would be the start of a new era for Germany. They had a coach who won everything with the Bayern core of German players and could get them to play winning, attacking football. Hansi Flick's influence definitely showed. They got the 3rd most expected goals out of any team in the World Cup, despite playing only the group stage. They attacked relentlessly and created good chances, but the sad part is that there was no striker to finish those chances. All bark and no bite. Flick needs a number 9 up top to finish everything. Bayern would not have won the sextuple without Robert Lewandowski, and when he got injured the next season, Bayern got knocked out by PSG despite having 31 shots to PSG's 6. Here he tried to make Thomas Muller and Kai Havertz false 9s, but it just didn't work. They lost to Japan, and they were about to lose to Spain until he finally brought on Nicholas Füllkrug, a proper number 9 who got his goal to equalize. He scored against Costa Rica too, so maybe if he started Füllkrug from the beginning, Germany could have gone through. Also, another problem with the attacking mindset is that it leaves you defensively exposed. You let Costa Rica score 2 goals against you. They had 6 shots on target against you. For context, Costa Rica had 0 shots at all versus Spain and 1 on target versus Japan. There's a lot to work on, but Jamal Musiala is really exciting and you can build a team around him in 2024 and 2026. Spain. Hey, at least they got second Spain right. I just thought they would go a lot further. After the last World Cup, Luis Enrique, who won the treble with Barca, managed Spain and had less talent to work with than the golden generation. The midfield and defense is elite, but a front line of Olmo, Varane, Asensio, Morata, and Sarabia does not scare anyone. Nevertheless, he makes his team work. Once he responded to haters on Twitter by posting this spreadsheet of his results. Out of everyone in the last 4 or so years, Spain was the only team to reach the Euro semifinals, won Nations League semifinal and Nations League runner-up, and topped the World Cup qualifying group. Every other team came up short in some way, even France, so that's why I picked them to grind their way to the final. But Spain peaked too early. They used up all their goals against Costa Rica and looked clueless in the next 3 games. And they went out to Morocco in the exact same way as Russia 4 years ago, having all the possession but not knowing what to do with it and losing on penalties. So it seems that despite all the progress they made under Enrique, they still haven't learned from their mistakes at past World Cups, where it mattered the most. Japan. There were some people hyping up Japan, but I saw Germany and Spain going through without any problems, kinda like Barca and Juve 2 years ago. But football is all about underdogs, and beating Spain and Germany in one World Cup is incredible. When Japan lost to Costa Rica in the second game, the coach said he was resting his key players for the Spain game, but many questioned him. Why didn't he play his starters against Costa Rica to qualify then and there instead of saving them for a harder team? Well, his plan worked as he beat Spain with his starters. However, Croatia in the round of 16 are penalty extra time specialists, and they simply had more experience than Japan, and it really showed in the shootout. Nevertheless, they went home knowing they made Asia proud. Costa Rica, I got this right. I knew this side would disappoint, but just like Iran, I love how they regrouped and fought until the end. Those 3 minutes, man. I don't think anyone will ever forget those 3 minutes where both Japan and Costa Rica were going through and Spain and Germany were going home. After losing 7-0, they held their ground and surprised Japan, and then they had Germany on strings with 20 minutes to go. In the end, they lost, but Costa Rica left this cup with a win, and that's what matters most. Group F, Belgium, biggest letdown. While no one saw teams like Denmark underperforming, many did see Belgium not living up to expectations. The team was getting old, especially the defenders, and many top players like Hazard and Lukaku have regressed. I agreed, saying that they wouldn't get past the round of 16, but I still thought their group stage would be light work for them. But they fell off quicker than I thought. Only 1 goal against a terrible Canadian defense, then getting outplayed by Morocco, and finally Lukaku having the unluckiest game against Croatia. Kevin De Bruyne was not able to do anything at all. What a way to go out. Their best chance to win something was in 2018. Croatia. At least I got this right, but I really underrated them. I said they would reach the round of 16, but instead they got 3rd place. It's just that in between the last World Cup and now, there have been some periods where they have just not looked good. Right after the World Cup, they got cooked 6-0 by Spain, and they were also poor in 2020 and early 2021. Even when I made the video, they were coming off a 3-0 loss to Austria. But since then, they topped their Nations League group with France and Denmark. as the midfield of Modric, Kovacic, and Brozovic is as elite as any superpower in 2022. And while he'll be remembered for not dealing with Messi in the semifinals, Josko Gvardiol is one of the best young defenders in the world. There seems to be a successful transition from the old guard to the up-and-coming in Croatia, and they made an identity for themselves. Croatia is the one team you do not want to go to extra time against. Canada? I don't know why you put them third. I guess they thought they would get a win somewhere? Honestly, this World Cup has been bad for attacking teams, in this case both Germany and Canada. Canada has never been a power, but they stormed to the top of World Cup qualifying, in their first World Cup since 1986, and in part because of their devastating attack of Davis, Lauren, and David. But ultimately, they are the weakest team in the group. Their defense does not have any experience at this level, and it got exposed against all three teams. As hosts, I hope they can learn for their 2022 World Cup, and build on it for 2026. Morocco. This has to be the most iconic World Cup run in a long time. Over the summer, I did not see Morocco's potential dark horse status, and it's my fault. I didn't know Morocco chose a new manager after losing 3-0 to the US. And little did I know that star Hakim Ziyech, who retired from the team due to problems with the old manager, would make himself available again. When you look at the defense now, you see an elite one, even beyond Hakimi. Romain Saiz, former Wolves veteran. Agüerd, West Ham. Mazraoui, Bayern. And the biggest winner of all might be midfield Sofyan Amrabat, who ran the show and kept the best players at bay. So taking a look at the players now, I'm not surprised they did well. But what really took them to the next level was their incredible defensive organization. It's not like they were just getting lucky in every game. Morocco genuinely made it impossible for the opposition to shoot or have good chances. In the second half of the Portugal game, 3 Morocco defenders were out injured: Saiz, Agüerd, and Mazraoui. And Portugal still couldn't score. It's not only the players, but the absolutely impenetrable system. Great stuff from Morocco. Group G, Brazil. I did not see anyone but Brazil topping this group, and that's exactly what they did. And they said they would be knocked out in the quarterfinals, and that's exactly what happened. Just not to Germany, but to Croatia instead. Tite is no longer Brazil manager, but during his run, I saw a trend. Obliterate every other team, and never lose, until it's a game that really matters. Belgium in 2018, they shut down. Argentina in 2021, they had home advantage, and they didn't win the cup. Their team on paper is their best since 2002. And I know they lost to Cameroon, but looking at the players, even the B team is better than 2014 Brazil. It's a mentality thing, just like Man City in Europe. Brazil went off against South Korea, 4 goals in 30 minutes, just for this insane talent to shut down and struggle against Croatia, and let a lead slip with just a few minutes to go. This team is insane. If a new manager gets their mentality to improve, they're winning everything. Serbia. Again, another attacking team, just like Germany and Canada, not living up to the hype. Their attacking talent is insane, and I did predict Serbia versus Switzerland would be 3-2, but I said 3-2 to Serbia, and it was 3-2 to the other team instead. The attack worked. 3 goals against Cameroon as well, but the defense was just completely exposed. Cameroon scored 3, Switzerland scored 3, Brazil scored 2. Serbia just did not know how to defend, and if you want to get out of the group, you have to defend well. Serbia didn't do that, and they finished bottom of the group, which is even worse. Here's the weird stat though. Brazil scored the fewest goals in the group and finished first. Serbia scored the most goals in the group and they finished bottom. Defense matters, boys. Switzerland. Yeah, I feel silly for not trusting them this year. They usually go under the radar. They're pretty good at getting out of groups, and I should have picked them to move on again. They're more balanced than Serbia, attack and defense, that's for sure. But then, Portugal showed them levels in the round of 16, so it's not like they would have gone far. Just thought Serbia's attack would surprise them, but here we are. Cameroon, fair play to them. I thought they would lose 3 in a row again, but you fought for your draw against Serbia. And against Brazil, when you think of the World Cup, you usually think of Brazil first. So beating them in their favorite competition is always something special. And Vincent Aboubakar brought his AFCON form to the World Cup. Gonna be interesting to see him play with Ronaldo if he moves to Al Nassr. Uruguay. Oh no, they had a good year, but it ultimately didn't matter for the World Cup. People say it's a similar problem to Belgium, players getting too old. Indeed, Suarez and Cavani are both old and no longer playing for elite clubs. Diego Godin is too old to play in Europe. But it's not as bad as people say. Darwin, Valverde, Araujo, Bentancur, Uruguay's future is bright. Sadly, the games just did not go to plan, and Araujo was too injured to play any game. And even though they beat Ghana on the last day, South Korea foiled their plans. As the old legends retire, a new team built around the spine of Darwin, Valverde, and Araujo can go deep in 2026. Portugal. They just do not win groups under Santos. I mean, they have the best squad in the group by far, but I never see them finishing first, even against Ukraine and Serbia, so I picked them second. Of course now they finished first, but then they used up all their goals against Switzerland and they couldn't get past Morocco. But my prediction wasn't far off. I said they'd go out in the round of 16, they dipped in quarterfinals. Not gonna lie, I feel bad for Ronaldo being moved to the bench. He started the whole group stage, couldn't score from open play, and then his replacement scored a hat-trick. He's arguably the second best player of all time and no European club wants him. But this is better for Portugal in the long run. There is so much talent in the team that benching an old Ronaldo unlocks. He is a legend though, and if he doesn't retire, I hope he's in the 2026 squad somehow as a super limited bench player. Come off the bench at a World Cup final and score the winning penalty or something would be the best way to go. South Korea, good stuff from them. Didn't expect them to get out of the group, especially after losing to Ghana, but then they played a close game against Portugal and got a last-minute win to move on. They got smoked by Brazil, but they didn't give up and still got their consolation goal. Round of 16 is amazing for them. Ghana. This is the one team I got right in this group, but Ghana have not been pushovers at all. One thing I didn't get to talk about in my first video is Ghana's recruitment ahead of the World Cup. They got Athletic Club striker Iñaki Williams, Saints defender Salisu, and Brighton defender Lamptey to raise their chances. It didn't seem like it worked out defensively, as Ghana still conceded 7 goals, but it definitely helped with the vibes as they beat South Korea, Salisu scoring as well. When Bukhari did the Sue in front of Ronaldo, that really was peak vibes. And last but not least, Argentina. My predictions were so uneven, but I got the big thing right, Argentina winning the whole thing. I think the weirdest part of my predictions was predicting what happened in the final, but against Poland. Messi missed a penalty, then McAllister scored. I also had Argentina knocking out France, but in the round of 16. It didn't start off well with that random loss to Saudi Arabia, but I kept faith, knowing that Spain lost to Switzerland in their first game in 2010. That first half against Mexico though, we were in the trenches. Argentina had one shot in the first half. What was going on? 45 more minutes, and they might have gotten grouped. Eventually, Messi's goal and assist opened them up in the second half, but Argentina still didn't look convincing. Luckily, Argentina really turned it up against Poland, and the 2-0 score doesn't show the dominance they had. Szczesny was just that good. Knockouts is where Argentina gets interesting. Neither in the group stage, nor the knockouts, Argentina never popped off and destroyed a team entirely. England smashed Iran 6-2. Brazil smashed Korea 4-0 after just 36 minutes. Portugal won 6-1 and Spain 7-0. For some reason, this just kills momentum for the next game. The next team makes it impossible for you to score. Just doesn't work out. Meanwhile, Argentina lived on the edge. No game was easy. One chance away from extra time with Australia. Penalty shootout against the Netherlands. Against France. Both times after going 2-0 up and losing the lead. It was nervous, it was tense, but every single time Argentina rose to the occasion and moved on. Emi Martinez became everyone's worst nightmare in penalty shootouts, and Messi hasn't always been all that for Argentina. 2010 World Cup, he scored 0 goals. 2015 Copa America, 1 goal. Even as recently as 2019, no goals and assists aside from a penalty against Paraguay in the group stage. But 2021 and 2022, he went full God mode. He's won everything there is to win with Barca, but he knew his time was running out to win something with Argentina, and he took his game to the next level. He obliterated the opposition in 2021 and did so again this year in a legendary campaign that is up there with Maradona 1986 and Ronaldo 2002. People are saying, oh, but he scored 4 penalties. Well, penalties are hard to score, especially in the World Cup atmosphere. Ask Harry Kane. Messi has had problems with penalties in the past. Missing against Chile, Chelsea, Iceland, Real Madrid on the biggest stage. I'm so happy that he was able to overcome letting his team down in the past, improve his technique, and ultimately score every single penalty in the knockout stage without fail. Everyone mattered. Even if he didn't get to take the penalties, he still ran the show, creating brilliant chances against the strongest teams, especially that dribble against Gvardiol. I just knew things were gonna be different this time. Under their new manager, Lionel Scaloni, Argentina have looked much more like a team. The problem in the past has been called Messi dependencia. Relying on him to do everything and then not being able to win when he's marked out of the game or has an off day. But under Scaloni, Argentina started to have an identity outside Messi. Rodrigo de Paul became an elite midfielder, attacking and defending with passion. Feisty Emi Martinez commanded his goalpost and taunted the opposition into submission. Di Maria got trusted to start in the biggest games and always delivered. 2 goals in 2 finals. Argentina wasn't just Messi FC anymore. Scaloni created the supporting cast. Players like Julian Alvarez and Enzo Fernandez impressed everyone in this cup, while many have ripped into Lautaro Martinez for missing chances against Australia and France. But Lautaro isn't always like this. Under Scaloni, Lautaro has actually been their biggest goal machine, outscoring Messi in the qualifiers and in the cup. Benching him for Julian was the right decision, but I rate Lautaro, and he'll rediscover his form for Argentina very soon. What a World Cup it's been though. Messi champion at last, and coupled with his almost 20 years of elite level consistency, this makes him the greatest player of all time surely. He has won everything. What a legend! This is long, but I hope you enjoyed it. One of the most unpredictable yet fun World Cups in recent history. Thanks for watching. I'll keep you posted on club football.